Hi! So before we begin, I want to tell you a story. When I was a kid, I want to say maybe like 9, I got Pokemon Gold for my birthday and I was so happy.
Let's try this again. Now concentrate. Think Pichu, Lugia, Pikachu, Chikorita, Cyndaquil. Cool.
The new collector's edition Gold and Silver Pokemon Game Boy Color. A true Pokemon master may do anything to get it.
That poor duck. This duck has been constipated with a Game Boy Color while this piece of shit was just messing with him. It was like the new Pokemon game that was coming out and I had just like finished playing Pokemon Yellow and I was very into that game. So Pokemon Gold was the next one and I was like, wow, new Pokemon, a new region. It's almost like a whole new world.
It's a whole new world we live in. Pokemon JoJo.
I mean, yeah, that was kind of also like the tagline, you know, it's a whole new world. But yeah, it seemed really cool, like, because new Pokemon, like, that's something to be excited about. It's something to look forward to, because it's like a new spin on something that I was already very passionate about. Pokemon was something I was like very hyper fixated on. And so for there to be like another region, another game, another storyline, like another Pokemon game, that sounds so cool. It made me really want to get it. It's such a big deal for me. So then as I was playing it, and I started to play it with like, you know, my own Pokemon team and whatnot, I started to get rather enthusiastic about the idea of writing my own Pokemon story. Because you see, when you play a video game, especially back in the day, you can't necessarily record it, like unless you have a VHS. And even so, you can't necessarily edit that. You can only play it and then you can just kind of get the footage that way and just kind of show it to people, the very few people that you have. You can't really give commentary on like the specs or what was going through your mind or anything like that. But nowadays we have like live streamers who do that all the time. And of course there was the rise of the Nuzlocke challenge. It gives like every Pokemon that you capture a sense of personhood. It matters to you because when your Pokemon faints, it doesn't just faint, it dies, which is the whole point of the emotional attachment to your Pokemon on your team.
Is it super effective though? Because I feel okay. Ah, I've been brined. No, Glurmble, no!
I remember the first time I had an emotional attachment to a Pokemon, and it was to Hypno, because it was the first Pokemon I ever evolved, and this was in Pokemon Yellow. It was one of those Pokemon that obliterated the whole game, like almost with ease. I didn't know how levels worked. I barely knew how to read at that point. Once I realized what level it was, which was like at level 63 in Fuchsia City, I got soft locked at the Safari Zone because I lost all my money and all the items I could sell, and I battled all the trainers. Years later, I would learn that Pika Spray found that you could just bypass that. I wish I knew that sooner. It really broke my heart. I had to restart the game and lose Hypno. It was like a real fucking traumatic event for me in a way. But that was the first time I ever had like an actual emotional attachment to a Pokemon that I caught and evolved and raised so passionately. Spent so much time with that Pokemon, and to lose it, it was basically like what a lot of people experience today with Nuzlocke. To me, it's quite validating, not necessarily in a schadenfreude way, but you know, just to know that other people go through that sometimes, you know? Anyway, but with Pokemon Gold, I wanted to tell my own story. So one time, I legitimately fucking made like a fucking chunk of paper, like printer paper. I would draw with like a pen and markers and shit, my own adventure. I drew like my character, I would document all the Pokemon I caught, and I would just kind of like, you know, put myself in this situation where I was traveling through Johto and Kanto. And this was before Crystal, but I made my character into a girl too. And I didn't even know what Crystal looked like back then, like the character Crystal, I mean. And I just kind of wish that I held on to those papers. I don't have that anymore. But what I can do is tell you the story through a video. Now that I know how to video edit, now that there's ROM hacks like Crystal Clear that is so wide open that I can literally dictate my own adventure, heck, let's do it. I want to make two things really clear. First of all, one is that this is not a Nuzlocke challenge. I am just playing Pokemon Crystal Clear, which is a ROM hack made by Shockslayer, my own way. I'm not abiding to any specific rules of any kind. And secondly, I made the mistake of playing this game while on Discord with my friend, and that kind of chopped up the frame rate a little bit. But after that, it should be okay. Grab your Game Boy, because we're about to hop into the world of Johto and Kanto. I am very thankful that this game exists. Even if it is a ROM hack, it is unlicensed. I am very grateful that this game exists. And in light of all of this, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Shockslayer for making this ROM hack into a reality. And ultimately, this isn't just your usual normal by the numbers Pokemon game. No. It's called Crystal Clear. When you boot up the game, the first thing you are presented with is picking your own hometown, and you can pick from either side of the Kanto or Johto region. And the game difficulty varies depending on where you choose to start the region, but I'm gonna start in Violet City because strictly from a gameplay standpoint, it is geographically strategic. And I absolutely adore that you can customize your character with so many customizable options, even going as far as to having a non-binary option. And you can customize the skin color to have racial diversity, you can customize the hair color, the clothing color, you can customize like all kinds of things. It is crazy. Shockslayer has really embedded this game with so many customizable options that are worth exploring. By the way, my name is Skylar. Pleased to meet you. Some of the other options involve the color of your bag and the color of your Pokegear. Take a good look at what we have for options for like starter Pokemon. This is absolutely fascinating. You got everything from your usual starters in both Kanto and Johto to the baby Pokemon to some of the oddities out there like Porygon or Smeargle or Shuckle or something like that. And they all come with some kind of difficulty, like of course if your starter is going to be Magikarp, you're gonna have a hard time up until level 20 for Magikarp. But I'm picking Houndour because Houndour is adorable. And honestly, I just have a soft spot for hellhounds like Houndour. This guy is gonna be my friend. And I am gonna fast forward through this bit of Shockslayer showcasing much of the new features that were implemented into his ROM hack. I'm sorry, I want to keep this video concise because it's probably gonna be long as it is already. But the important thing that you need to know is that this particular ROM hack is very open world, and there are plenty of new features revolving around it being open world. New characters, battles, ways of catching Pokemon, data about Pokemon. I also like the detail that he made it possible for you to be able to collect all 251 Pokemon on a single game file. And that means you can save at the very beginning automatically to increase your chances of getting a shiny starter Pokemon. I find there to be a lot of care, love, and passion put into this ROM hack. And also, speaking of love and passion, I'm going to be naming Houndour after my late cat, who died in 2012. She was my best friend growing up. Oliver will always be in my heart. And that's essentially the name of the game here, folks, is that I'm going to be using this playthrough of Crystal Clear to tell a story. Not exactly based on a true story or anything, but I want to have those moments where I'm hanging out with my cat, and I want to also go on an adventure with my cat. Now, to be clear, my cat was not a dog, and my Houndour is male, while my cat was female, but that doesn't really matter. What matters to me more importantly is that this is going to be an adventure that I have full control over. And I could say I'm rather quite excited to embark on this journey. The first thing I did was I needed to try to catch some Pokemon, so I went searching for Pokemon. The goal was to try to get a Natu, as Xatu, its evolutionary form, is one of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 2. And of course, by no means is it my only favorite Pokemon from Generation 2. But unfortunately, I didn't have any luck, as Natu in this particular part of the region are too strong. Well, that's unfortunate. I hope you're not mad at me, Oliver. Oliver is poking at your feet. Oliver, leave my feet alone, you creep. The next thing we tried to do was to catch a Mareep, because Mareep is a electric type, and the first gym that we're most likely going to be confronting is Falconer, who utilizes flying type Pokemon, giving us a type advantage. With this game being open world, this part of the map is not accessible at the first gym because it's closed off. So being able to catch a Mareep this early in the game is only possible because of this open world mechanic. I decided to name Mareep Lamb Chop after the show that I used to watch when I was a kiddo. I went ahead and also fought some trainers, mainly because I needed to grind up on some levels, and I definitely wanted to make sure that my team was at tip-top shape. I did want to make it known that I'm not going to be showing every single instance of me grinding my Pokemon because it's just kind of boring. It's not necessarily the most interesting thing, so I'm just showing you now that this is something I'm doing now at the beginning of the game, because I am most certainly going to be doing that a lot as we go through this adventure, so I'll save you the tedious monotony of it all. I definitely didn't want to sit idly by not having caught a Natu, because, I mean, Natu's a pretty cool Pokemon, so I'm going to try one more time, and if I fucking get any... Well, okay, it's not a Natu, but oh my god, get the fuck out. Yo, run. And for a little while, I really did try to catch a Natu. I really pursued trying to catch a Natu, especially in the foolish state that I was doing that in. You know, just throwing Pokeballs blindly, disobeying every fucking rule when it comes to actually trying to catch Pokemon, to my own detriment. In hindsight, I don't know why I was so hellbent, other than the fact that it's one of my favorite Pokemon. At one point, I also encountered a Murkrow, which is also a really cool Pokemon, especially in the early game. Not something you usually see in the early game, you usually see it in the very late game for that matter. However, I was just not successful, and eventually I gave up, mainly because I ran out of Pokeballs, but also I think I should be focusing on the team that I already have first, before I make any major advancements. It's the next day. Good morning, and I'm hoping that my friends and pals have definitely gotten the sleep that they deserve, because we're jumping right into the first gym, Falconer, and I want to make something very clear, and that is, you can actually go to any gym in any order within this crystal clear ROM hack, which means you could theoretically start by fighting Blue as your first gym battle. I don't know how I feel about doing that. As of right now, I kinda just want to keep things in order. Starting off with Falconer with an electric type Pokemon would be a very wise decision on my part. And quite frankly, I don't seem to care that deeply about deviating from the established order too much, necessarily. I may choose to deviate later on, but we'll have to see. I'm not there yet. But as you can see, getting Lamb Chop was a very smart decision on my part, because I'm literally blazing through this gym, completely frying these chickens, and we're gonna have KFC tonight, baby. So we're about to be fighting Falconer, and I want to know, what do you think? You think I have a chance? Oliver seems to feel right at home. Well, okay then. What makes Falconer kind of devious is that he actually has moves in his repertoire that are not exactly flying type moves. I always found it weird that his Pokemon know Mud Slap, which is a ground type move that flying type Pokemon use, and admittedly it can actually be kind of an issue when it comes to Mareep here, because Mareep is an electric type and ground type moves are considerably strong against electric types. but either way, I prevail through Pidgey. And then we still have one more Pokemon to go. We have Pidgeotto to worry about. Pidgeotto is a bit of a fucking menace. The wind is finally with us. I'm sorry, but no matter what, I'm sticking to the strategy of just using Thunder Shock until I win, because that's just the best thing I can do here. But unfortunately, Mud Slap and Sand Attack has really hindered my ability to be able to land this fucking attack. So I have to switch to Oliver, because even though this is not a Nuzlocke challenge that I'm doing, I at least don't want to have my Pokemon faint. Or at least the one that I want to win this battle, of course. So yeah, I'm just gonna be healing Lamb Chop for a little bit. Oliver is going to unfortunately sustain some abuse from Pidgeotto. I feel bad for Oliver, but Lamb Chop is going to ensure that that is not a loss in vain. I can assure you that at this point, the Mud Slaps are getting on my absolute fucking nerves, and the fact that I keep missing attacks is really putting me on edge. But at some point, I land a fucking Thunder Shock, and is it a one-hit KO? No, not quite, unfortunately. But hopefully I can land one more hit, because this is literally all I have. And by a stroke of fucking luck, I won my first gym badge. And what's cool is that I leveled up too. That was a pretty awesome victory. Feels good having a first try victory on the first gym, even though it's not necessarily the hardest gym. In regards to the additions made by the ROM hack, I am absolutely not a fan of the Pokemon League calling you every time you step out of the gym with a new badge. I don't like that. I think that was a terrible creative decision, because even though it's telling you you unlocked stuff, it is still a major pace breaker. In between gyms, I did a little bit more of grinding for Lamb Chop until she evolved into Falafi, which is a huge major accomplishment. So the more I thought about it, the more it just made sense to just start doing all of the gyms in order, even though I have the entire game at my disposal, predominantly because I realized that Azalea Town is a bit out of the way, and that it's going to be pretty difficult to be able to go to Azalea Town later in the game. Well, I don't know for certain, but I have not been able to look or find the HM for Fly, and I don't even know if that's available immediately at this point in the game. And that is to say that I haven't really done full research on this ROM hack. I haven't really taken the time to learn every single small minor detail about this game. So in a way, I am kind of entering this blindly, with having heard other people play this game before and having dabbled in this game here and there in the past. But anyway, enough about that. I am pretty much already prepared and set for this gym. This gym is absolutely going to be literally easy to do. I'm just blazing through this. I didn't pick Hondour for my starter because he's a fire type, although that is absolutely great coverage for me to have in this situation. I picked Hondour for a couple of reasons. One, he is the color black, and I love the black color. A lot of people will err on the side of semantics and state that black is a shade, not a color. Well, fuck off, okay? It doesn't make my reasoning for picking Hondour any less. It's just the same kind of argument that people make when they complain that you're wearing all black. It's really, inconsequential to them that I'm wearing all black or that I chose a black-colored Pokemon. And if you're in the United States, that's rather consistent with American history, but I digress right now. But honestly, I don't really see people playing with Hondour all that much in these playthroughs, and I think partially that has to do with the fact that Hondour is not all that immediately accessible in the early game. Alright, it's time to fight Bugsy. This is a really easy fight for me. I mean, we're talking two really over-leveled Cocoon Pokemon, and an admittedly lethal Scyther. Metapod and Kakuna are largely very much good for poisoning my Pokemon, string shotting my Pokemon to reduce their speed, and occasionally hardening in order to increase their defenses. Now, I used Lamb Chop for the beginning largely for the experiences, but I chose to swap out for Oliver just because it's just a type advantage, and I figured, why not just incinerate them ahead of time, just get it over with. I already have like my A game here. It's incredibly easy to just do this really quickly. Scyther goes for Fury Cutter, which it's really weak at first, but it increases its power every time he uses it. So that means I have to take it out really fast, or else Scyther is going to be unstoppable. But nevertheless, I win the battle, and I get my second gym badge. Honestly, I wasn't even afraid of losing this gym in the first place. I kinda had it in me the whole time. I really didn't have anything to worry about at the end of the day, and I proved myself to be correct on that matter. I didn't want to just battle gym leaders. This isn't J-Rose 11. No disrespect to J-Rose 11, who makes awesome content by the way. But I wanted to do more than just battle the gym leaders on this playthrough. Like, for example, riding the fucking train. I mean, oh my god, y'all know I love trains. But yeah, once again, this is an open world Pokemon ROM hack, meaning yes, you can ride the train immediately as soon as you start the game. And that is awesome, because now we have Kanto at our disposal from the very get-go. And as stated earlier, you don't have to start in Johto or New Barktown for that matter. You can start anywhere in Kanto, even in Saffron City if you so choose. And of course, I'm gonna do my favorite thing to do whenever I reach Saffron City is talk to this guy and get my favorite TM. I love Psychic. I love the move. I love the type. I love the Pokemon that are attached to that type. I love Hypno, I love Alakazam, I love Espeon, I love Xatu, I love all of those Pokemon. And you can absolutely bet that I'm going to be getting some Psychic type Pokemon later down the line. To my surprise, Silph was open, and I got very curious and started navigating, and I found this weird fellow. I started talking to him. Ah, hello, I am a scientist here. My name is Zebot, and this Pokemon is my assistant, Duck.exe. I'm pretty sure he's referring to this fellow right here. Yeah, catchy nicknames were never my thing. What's yours, Skylar? Interesting name. I'm just gonna guess you're wondering what's up with the blindfolds. That's a bit of a long story. You sure you want to know? Of course I want to know. Are you kidding me? You can't just tease me like that. Most people don't give me a second thought after I tell them that. I was working on decompiling Pokemon data for more cheap Game Corner prizes. I was close to cracking Porygon's code when one of the machines had a critical failure. Oh shit, hey buddy, do you have like a union or something? The resulting explosion was blinding. Team Rocket had no use for me, and I knew that I was so close. So I came here to Silph and showed them. They saw my talent and hired me. That's how I made Duck.exe. It helps me get around. God damn it, this is such an inspiring story. Battle me already. I really like this inserted NPC and Pokemon battle, and if it wasn't already apparent, this was not in the original Pokemon Crystal game. I also like how we're not only seeing NPCs name their Pokemon compassionately, but also having shiny Pokemon of their own. And we rarely, if not ever, see that in the mainline Pokemon games. I don't know if that's something they've done in the recent generations. I don't really Sword and Shield or Violet and Scarlet, or really any of the other recent games in the past several generations. But I will say right now, in spite of me being able to defeat Duck.exe, this was a hard fight. And I got incredibly lucky with this typing lineup because I didn't know Muffet was a Spinarak. Firewall has to be a fire type. This will be a true test because he goes with Dragon Rage. I was totally not prepared for that. That really threw me in for a loop. And with an attack that powerful early in the game, I was not confident in my ability to win this fight. I really didn't have anything to worry about. Lamb Chop took him out easily. However, I really wish I had Oliver at my disposal for this Magnemite because of his type advantage but unfortunately I am just gonna have to prevail with what I have with Lamb Chop. I don't know, but shouldn't electric type moves have somewhat of an advantage over steel type because it conducts electricity? I mean, clearly in terms of typing, there has to be some kind of consistency with that scientific fact. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of most Pokemon and their typings. After all, that's kind of the whole point of grass, water, and fire being your starters. But I'm purely thinking out loud. This right here was an excellent battle. It really challenged me, and I was genuinely afraid of actually losing this fight. But to my surprise, I prevailed, and I'm very proud of myself here. I'm very proud that I was able to circumnavigate myself around one of Shock Slayer's challenges. With that being said, at one point I began to realize in that previous battle that I don't have enough Pokemon, and I need to catch more, because I really need to bolster my team. And I found the Pokemon I was looking for earlier in this playthrough at a respectable level 8. This time I got incredibly lucky. I decided the first thing I was going to do is do a Thunder Wave. This will paralyze it, making it unable to move or attack me, although I'm already very over-leveled in comparison to Natu, so I don't really think I have anything to worry about. But what I want to know is if that's enough for a Great Ball to render Natu as an effective member of my party. Lo and behold, it was! All that karma is finally paying off. Oh, hell yes. My friend, who was watching me play at the time, told me to name it Newt Newt. I'm not exactly sure why. I think he told me there's a reference to something, but okay, why not? The next thing I did was visit Celadon City, which is one of my favorite towns to visit in Pokemon altogether. It's just such a great place to be. It just gives me good vibes all around. If you go back here into this building and you climb all the way to the top, there is a special surprise for you, just waiting for you out of nowhere, really. And it's a Pokemon, like completely for free. You could just take it. It's yours. I decided to name this Pokemon Sapphics. And if you know why, then you know why. And if you don't know why, well, I don't know what to tell you. I also went ahead and purchased a Water Stone, and I'm not going to evolve Eevee into Vaporeon just yet, only because I want to make sure that Sapphics raises its level and learns some proper moves before it evolves. I also wanted to take the initiative and go to Ecruteak City because there is another Pokemon that I genuinely want to catch at night. And that Pokemon is Misdreavus. It's one of my other favorite Pokemon from Generation 2. The first thing I did was send out Newt Newt, which was not exactly a good lineup really, so I didn't want to see Newt Newt continually suffer as I'm trying to catch this one Pokemon. So I swapped out to Lamb Chop, who did a Thunder Wave on Misdreavus, obviously, and I threw a Pokeball and caught it. I was so happy to get a Misdreavus, and I named Misdreavus Sydney after a really close friend of mine. Huge shout out to the homie. Something really interesting happened after this battle, and that was in the Burn Tower I kept encountering Misdreavuses who just wanted to see me suffer because I caught one of their own on the way out. It was kind of fucking annoying, but eventually I got out, and I rushed my ass to the Pokemon Center to heal my babies. After an intense amount of off-screen grinding and other side missions that I decided to participate in, Oliver is regarding me with adoration. Well, thank you, Oliver. I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. But right now, I want to do something that I said I was going to do later on and evolve this particular Eevee right here. Because, hell, I just want a Vaporeon. Can you blame me? Yeah, I got this Water Stone earlier, and I figured it would be a really good thing to hold on to for a while. But I figured, like, why not? I'm just holding it back. I may as well evolve it now while I'm at it, you know? Like, while I'm about to fight one of the most fearsome gym leaders of all time. So the name of the game here is I'm gonna fight every trainer with Sydney the Misdreavus in the very front of my party, predominantly because she needs all of the experience that she can get. When things get a little too spicy for Sydney in a normal type gym, I will switch her out to another Pokemon to finish the job so I can prevent Sydney from dying and losing all of the experience that she could get. The purpose of using this gym is to level up Sydney. I mean, she really needs all that experience. I'm going at it with these Sentrets here. Now, this gym trainer battle was relatively easy. I almost forgot that, like, I took no damage. But Meowth here knows Bite, and that's a dark type move. That's lethal, so that's why I had to switch out to Sapphic this time around, because dark type moves are very, very lethal to ghost type Pokemon. But like I said, I used the old classic strategy of swapping out Pokemon, ensuring that Sydney gets all that experience. I want Sydney to grow up to be big girl. Snubbull also has dark type moves, so I swap out Sydney for Zappix again, just to ensure that Sydney doesn't die once again. The next Pokemon trainer uses all Jigglypuffs, and that could have been a problem for me. Like a real fucking problem, except she only landed with like Defense Curl and didn't attack me at all really, because once again, I'm a ghost type Pokemon, but she could have really done some serious problems for me with that singing move that she has. This Jigglypuff here uses Disable, but it uses it on my Confuse Ray, and it's already confused. It's a bit too late for that. Oh well. Hi, I'm Whitney. Everyone's into Pokemon, so I got into it too. Pokemon are super cute. You want to battle? I'm warning you, I'm good. I know, and that's why I'm fucking scared. Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say I was absolutely nervous. Now, I did bulk up my team as much as I could. I do feel pretty confident here, although that doesn't take away from the fact that she has some pretty lethal moves among her two Pokemon. They are infamous for a reason, but it seems like the Confuse Ray is doing a lot of good for me, except for this Mimic here that I gave to Clefairy was Psywave. That's not something I want to give Clefairy at all. And with a complete air of irony on that, she uses Metronome and uses Sing. So all of the karma points that I got have been completely paid off in the most ironically unfortunate way possible. And do I have Awakening? I do have a Mint Berry, and that comes to my beck and call, but Psywave hits me, and that's not good. I finish her off with a fucking Headbutt, and Sydney grew up to level 16. Pretty good victory there. But Miltank is going to be a different story entirely. The first thing I want to do is land a Confuse Ray on Miltank, because that rollout can get pretty lethal, kind of like Fury Cutter with Bugsy. So we're going to go with that. It hits itself, that's good, that's what I want to see. Psywave should do a little bit of damage as well. Confuse, nope. And this is where I wonder if even Sydney is gonna make it, because this is looking to be quite a promising setup here, especially with the combination of Psywave and Confuse Ray. But every non-stop, uninterrupted rollout that Miltank does, it gets more powerful. So that's why Sydney knocked out, because rollout got even more powerful. Lamp Chop is up next. I go for a Thunder Wave, and I barely survive the rollout just to land the Thunder Wave. Oh my god, I'm gonna go for a Super Potion, cause holy shit, I wanna be able to make it. Nope, unfortunately not. Yeah, I'm nervous as shit right now. Newt really needs to pull through, especially with the type advantage here. Psychic, please, please. Oh my god, please. Yes, yes. Eat shit, Whitney. Eat shit. I do feel bad for making Whitney cry. I don't know why people give her a lot of shit. Like, I know I just told her to eat shit, but it's okay to cry. And I mean, Whitney honestly put up a pretty good fight. It was a reasonable challenge that definitely ended with me winning. And it was a well-deserved victory. We all did our part there. We really fucking did it, and I'm proud of our team. I'm so proud of our team. Do you understand how proud I am? I am fucking thrilled. So this is where things are gonna get interesting, because immediately after fighting Whitney, I go straight to Morty's gym. And I mean so immediately, that I forgot to heal my team. Of course, I'm not recording all of this in one go. I'm recording this throughout the course of several days, weeks, and months, and so on and so forth. So I thought that Natu was at the front of my party, but as you can see, Sydney and Lamb Chopper still knocked out. I have not healed them since the previous battle with Whitney. I certainly feel ashamed in this situation. Anyway, all these Ghastly keep using Curse, but they don't realize that I'm gonna repeatedly swap out for like Sapphics in order to gain Sapphics some experience. The same strategy as the previous gym, y'all. Not to mention, at this point in time, Sapphics knows only normal type attacks. And I need Sapphics here to be able to, like, gain some levels so Sapphics can learn some new attacks. Like, I don't know, Water Gun or something like that. Anyway, there's not much else to say about this gym other than that I'm just trying to train these Pokemon for the gym leader. So I'm gonna skip ahead to the gym leader himself. How are you doing, Oliver? Are you ready for this? Your Pokemon is looking around for a dark place. Well, there are plenty of those around here. Good of you to come. Here in Ecruteak, Pokemon have been revered. It's said that a rainbow-colored Pokemon will come down to appear before a truly powerful trainer. I believe that tale, so I've secretly trained here my whole life. As a result, I can now see what others cannot. Just a bit more. With a little more, I could see a future in which I meet the Pokemon of the rainbow colors. You're going to help me reach that level. I always liked how Morty took his convictions seriously. He has a dream, he has a goal, he stuck to it, and he definitely is not the type of person to give up when he is kicked down a peg. So of course the first thing I do is swap out, and I get pretty bad luck with this paralysis. And foolishly, I don't have any paralyzed heals. I came unprepared. I know I have full heals, but like, I really wish I had some paralyzed heals. Curse only helps me in the end because I knock out this Ghastly like immediately, and I'm gonna switch again because like, you already know why. I've explained it repeatedly at this point. Now, Gengar is kind of like his A-game Pokemon here, especially considering that it has the TM move Shadow Ball, and it knocks out Sydney immediately, rendering me unable to do that Confuse Ray, and I feel like I gotta knock it out quickly with Bite, which is a Dark-type move, and it needs to be a 2-hit KO, or else I'm in serious fucking trouble. So that was lucky. Oliver fucking nailed it. I switched to Sapphics partially because I need to heal Oliver because I'm gonna need Oliver later on. Remember when I said that I didn't have any water type moves for Sapphics? Well, in Blackthorn City, which is 2 towns over, there is a move reminder that I believe Shock Slayer himself inserted into there. I'll try to show it off later, but Sapphics now knows Water Gun. And it gets to be a pretty close fight between Haunter and Sapphics here. Sapphics' Water Gun is doing a decent chunk of damage, and this gets so close. I mean, it gets really fucking close. The only sad part is that my speed for Sapphics is just not high enough. But Oliver comes back and finishes the job, and I mean, it does wonders, because it gets Oliver to level 24. And that's going to be important later. And for the final Pokemon, I send out Lampchop. I figure that Lampchop can handle it all on her own. After all, she's pretty powerful, she's pretty much able to take care of herself on her own, and it gives me plenty of time to heal. Haunter goes for Hypnosis and is unsuccessful. I land a Thunder Wave. It feels really good to do that, and a bunch of successions of Thunder Shock should be able to finish the job nice and easy if I am consistent and able to just land all of the hits. And to my surprise, yep, I won. I won, baby. And that is a first try victory for the 4th gym leader. That is like 4 first try victories with gym leaders. Oliver is evolving into a Houndoom. I am so happy that I got Oliver to evolve on the Morty gym battle. I don't think I felt this good about a gym victory since that one time I was playing Pokemon Black where I fought gym leader Elisa and I used my Blitzle to beat her Zebstrika, and then my Blitzel evolved into a Zebstrika. That is not something I have footage of, unfortunately. I'm just glad I get to do that again. How you feeling, Oliver? Oliver hopped in place. That is awesome. We are on a fucking roll, y'all. This adventure has been nothing but uphill battles, and we have been prevailing every step of the way. Now remember, I want this to be an adventure. I began to trace through part of the region that I haven't already explored in this open world. If you played the original Generation 2 Pokemon games, you'll notice that this is a relatively early route, meaning all of the Pokemon should be relatively low level, but these Pokemon are in their level 20s here, and that is because the way this game works is that the levels scale along with you as you get the badges and grind your Pokemon. In my opinion, I think this was a really smart creative decision that Skylar made, primarily because it gives us the ability to go to any part of the region with the levels that we are currently at right now, and we don't have to adhere to accidentally running into a youngster or something like that hasn't really scaled along with us in our journey. And you know what? It actually kind of feels like a lot of the NPCs are growing along with us. So it gets more difficult as time progresses, but that's kind of the point, right? It makes it a lot more realistic. It gives these already blank NPCs more life than we previously had in the original games. I thought this person was relatively unique. This is Tico, and Tico teaches us about how we can actually see Pokemon footprints in the wild, and it can actually increase our encounter rate with certain Pokemon that are hard to find. The possibilities here are endless. They can range from baby Pokemon that are hard to find unless you breed them, to really a high level Pokemon that are exceptional to the region. I won't be showing this feature off too much, but I will say that in my journey, I have encountered a significant amount of Pokemon that were really surprising. And even if I don't end up searching that Pokemon of that area, I do end up having a kick of just trying to find out what Pokemon is available in that area. As I made it through Union Cave, I want to talk about something that really bamboozled me, and that is this. This is supposed to be a Wooper? No, it's not. In fact, actually, it is a kid cosplaying as a Wooper. It's really funny, but the problem is that this kid is powerful as hell. He starts off with a Pidgeotto, and I'm able to knock out this Pidgeotto relatively easy, but this Quagsire right here really messed me up. Honestly, this Quagsire alone has been the stuff of nightmares for me. This Quagsire really messed me up because Quagsire is both ground and water type, and for some reason I thought throughout my battle that I could just use water to counteract the ground, but the water makes it kind of resistant to itself. And it didn't really click to me that grass would be doubly effective on this Quagsire. And it took me a while to really recognize that because this Quagsire was really tanking it, not to mention the full restore and the fact that it is holding a leftovers. I really felt foolish because this Quagsire was beating my ass to the ground repeatedly over and over with every attempt that I made. I made a lot of amateur moves with Lamb Chop in particular by having a very weak tackle just try to throw it down a peg, and then trying to get Oliver to try to use like some fucking moves on it, and it just wasn't budging. It was really resistant to everything I was throwing at it. However, at one point I just realized that Sapphics is going to be my best bet, even if Sapphics is not the greatest Pokemon for this task. And it just seems like that is what I'm going to have to do. It's just take it down a peg every so often, just chipping it away. I almost lost with 1 HP remaining. And by the time he sends out his shiny Golbat, I'm really running out of options. And I decide to just do what I can to heal Sapphics But this is really like a moot point. I'm literally about to fucking lose here. Shuffling through my bag for anything that can just keep me in the ring for at least a little longer. I'm making a gamble with Confuse Ray, but this piece of shit knows Feint Attack. I've gotten whited out a few times in this playthrough, but that was the first major defeat I experienced in this playthrough. This time I decide to stock up on some items to really ensure that I get my just desserts in that battle. I really want to make sure that I actually defeat this kid. My pride was on the line. My pride and ego was injured. More than my soul. More than my Pokemon. Okay, I shouldn't say that. That's kind of really cruel, but whatever. I put Flappy in the front of my party just to kind of get Pidgeotto out of the way. I'm back and I have full intention on winning this time. I'm not gonna lie, in terms of like actual strategy, there's not really much of a difference other than leading with Lamb Chop. And considering that both battles resulted in a 2-hit KO, I don't think switching really made a difference here. It's not like I learned anything because I just did a Thunder Wave on Quagsire, knowing that it was a ground-type Pokemon. So I figured that my best bet is just gonna have to be Confusion, considering that it is holding leftovers. I'm gonna have to really do my best to really take it down a peg here and there. This Quagsire is not a joke. This Quagsire really is the stuff of my fucking nightmares right now. With that said, Sydney using Confused Ray has been considerably reliable throughout this battle. I bring out Newt and I'm trying my hardest, my absolute darndest, to bring it down a peg after the full restore, and unfortunately, Newt gets knocked out. So I'm not necessarily feeling all that confident, so I use Sapphics again in an attempt to just bring it down like I did before. Yeah, I'm telling you, my strategy, unfortunately, it really hasn't changed at all. I'm doing my best to stay on top of using the items this time to keep it from dying. Sapphics puts up a good fight, admittedly, but unfortunately gets taken down with Slam. Oliver comes out and does a bite. I told you, same exact fucking strategy, except this time he brings out a Croconaw, and I happen to have Lamb Chop still ready in fighting position here. Lamb Chop gets knocked out, Oliver knocks out Croconaw, and now it is a true battle between Oliver and the shiny Golbat. I knew I had to get creative. I had an X attack and X defend in my bag, and I needed to ensure that I was gonna take out Golbat quickly, because it was taking me down and poisoning me and confusing me all at once, so the odds were not in my favor. This was a now or never situation, so I take a gamble and boom! I fucking won. Oh my god, this kid was brutal. All of my hard work paid off because I got 3 rare candies from that. What an awesome reward for beating a really tough challenge. And while I do feel bad that this kid was bullied by Whoopers, at the very least he has some really powerful Pokemon, so I don't quite understand how this kid has been routinely bullied by the local Whooper who are relatively low in level, but I digress, I suppose. I wanted to show you this. I found some footprints south of Goldenrod City, and I thought this was absolutely fascinating because apparently these footprints are Ditto's footprints. I didn't even know Ditto had footprints. So in my Pokemon journey, I really wanted to spice things up a bit, especially with the features that Shock Slayer has implemented. So I wanted to start battling some of the Kanto trainers, which means I'm gonna have to have fun riding the train to Kanto. I love trains, y'all. I really do. My very first battle in Kanto is with this trainer who happens to also have a Flaffy. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, I like when I have my Pokemon battling the same Pokemon. It's almost like a test to see which Pokemon is better at being that Pokemon, because there's not really like a definitive type advantage there. It really just boils down to which is the better Flaffy. and it shows that Lamb Chop is the better Flaffy. The first thing I do in Mount Moon is I get the Helix fossil, insert Twitch Plays Pokemon meme here, and that is when it dawned on me that Shock Slayer has taken the time to take some of the more cut down parts of the region of Kanto and really took the time to flesh it out. You see, in the original Gold, Crystal, and Silver, you had like Mount Moon and Viridian Forest, but they were like really trimmed down, like very, very trimmed down because of the cartridge space. But here, you actually have the original scope of how big each of these areas are. This means you get the version of Mount Moon that you saw in Red, Blue, and Yellow, with all of the rooms, all of the caves, the ladders, all of that stuff, all of the NPCs, all of the items, and more. Take a good look at the ledges on the side. It looks like I'm on an actual mountainous cave. It kind of gives me like an eerie sense of being really high up. I think the word I'm looking for is elevated. Anyway, this is another trainer. Hey there, I'm Feebeth. Oh, why am I here? Well, I come here to train seriously. The sheer amount of Pokemon here is good for it, but I've always wondered, how are there craters inside the cave? One of life's great mysteries, I guess. Anyways, wanna help me train, Skylar? Let's rumble. This battle wasn't as brutal as that Wooper kid. I mean, that Wooper kid really gave me post-traumatic stress disorder. I paralyzed that Porygon 2 and healed my Lamb Chop. But Porygon 2 is proving to be significantly powerful here, even resistant against my Thunder Shocks and Headbutts. I noticed that it was just spamming Psybeam, and I noticed how absolutely irritating Psybeam is, not even just as a move that is being used against my Pokemon, but just the fact that it kind of hurts my eyes with the flashing colors. I bring out Sydney next in hope of using Confuse Ray to stop it from both healing with Recover and using Psybeam along with its paralysis, but unfortunately, that doesn't really seem to be an effective strategy here. I switch out to Oliver since it is resistant to Psychic type and it's also a Dark type Pokemon. He brings out a shiny Togepi, and he calls it his Big Guns. I don't know what he means by that, but it doesn't really seem to work here, considering that I have a Psychic type Pokemon. And other than it being shiny, there's nothing really significant about this Togepi, if I'm gonna be honest with you. He's a really good sport healing my Pokemon, and then he references Alola, and he gives me these love balls, which is a little fucking strange, because that's kind of an innuendo, and he gets defensive saying that he was married. So, I don't know. That guy was weird, right, Oliver? Oliver is looking at Feebeth. It seems to have a sense of trust in him. There's a really adorable cutscene here in Mount Moon with these Clefairy that dance around a Moonstone, and I'm not necessarily interested in this Moonstone because I don't have Rock Smash. But I go up here, and I find this very peculiar person just hanging out here. Whom, by the way, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's Tico from Union Cave, the person who explained the footprint thing earlier. Good evening, Skylar. The moon is out tonight. How are you? Huh? You want to know why I'm here? I'm gonna make a criticism and say that some of these NPCs are a bit repetitive in their dialogue trees. There's a strong connection to the moon in this area. That's what makes it Mount Moon after all. So I'm here to train with my Pokemon under the moonlight. Or sometimes I'll come out here to practice drawing. I don't have much else to do between missions. Would you like to battle with me? Okay. This battle was a little bit more challenging considering that there's a full team of Pokemon, and Flappy being at the front of our party is really something special, I must say. Both of our Pokemon are paralyzed, so I switch out to Oliver and I land with Bite on Flappy, knocking it out and winning the first round. Quilava is up next, and I switch out to Sapphics because of the type advantage. Sunny Day is a bit of a problem because it weakens my water moves but increases her fire moves. Not to mention I was not expecting toxic, so now I'm poisoned and there's a flamethrower going on here. Luckily I survive, and that's 2 Pokemon down so far. In spite of the stat-altering moves that I've had to endure, I'm definitely still very far ahead of the game here, winning 3 victories and losing none of my Pokemon so far. Shinshao is probably the first challenge here. First thing I'm going to do is paralyze Shinshao. That is always the best protocol for a situation where I'm just not sure about how things are gonna go. But unfortunately, Shinshao is resistant somehow to Thunder Shock, and I lose Lambchop, sending out Newt next, who uses Giga Drain, because I definitely learned my lesson from having fought Quagsire so many times in this playthrough. Next, they send out a shiny fucking Larvitar, and that right there is an interesting setup there. Sydney goes with Confused Ray, which kinda was a moot point at this point, because Sydney loses, and I send out Sapphics, hitting it with a one-hit knockout with Water Gun. And Tico has his own Misdreavus, which I feel really bad, because I can't just pit Sydney with Misdreavus. But luckily I have the type advantage, and Oliver wins the fight with Bite. Hey, I rhymed there. Our connection to the moon isn't strong enough yet. We get healed again, and what's also really interesting is that we get these things called Moon Balls, which are effective to Pokemon that evolve with a Moonstone, like Clefairy. I went back into the cave and found a Swinub named Lemon, which I believe belongs to Tico. It doesn't seem to be lost. Better leave it alone. After a little while, I left Mount Moon and found what is called Ace Trainer Headquarters. So, this is essentially an apartment complex where you have wound up Swinubs that just kinda go around all over the building and be annoying toys. And eventually I found what was called Grizz's Lab, research with explosive results. Well, that definitely piqued my interest, so I went inside and spoke to the gentleman inside. Oh hey, howdy! Wait, how'd you get in here? The door, huh? Makes sense. What's your name? Skylar, right? I'm Grizz. Nice to meet you. Welcome to my lab. I was asked to stop calling it my science lair. I do some pretty cool things here. I maintain the online tutor database for both Kanto and Johto, you know. So I'm gonna show it off later, but essentially what he does is he allows for a lot of Pokemon to be able to learn moves that they would not normally learn, which is kinda cool, cause it keeps things fresh. He challenges me to a battle, and I accept. Foolishly, because I had no idea just how absolutely powerful this dude truly was. He starts with a different colored Quillfish, not a shiny Quillfish. And although the surf is a lot more powerful than I am comfortable with, I can absolutely say I won the first round. But he sends out Golem, and I switch to Sapphics because of the water type advantage, and I go for the one-hit KO. Very easy second round. Next up we have Tangela, which I switch to Oliver, again for the type advantaging, and I burn it to the ground with Ember. Relatively easy fight here, but this is where things get a little messed up, because this Farfetch'd here is brutal. I don't know what my brain was doing, but I kept selecting Tackle instead of Thunder Shock, which would have been the clear better move in this situation, and now I'm gonna have to pay the consequences. I bring out Sapphics again in hopes that Quick Attack will be fast enough to be able to knock it out quickly, and it does. So then we're down to the last Pokemon. So I bring out Sydney because I don't really know Dunsparce very well. It is a very peculiar looking Dunsparce. I go for the confusion route, only for Dunsparce to, at one point, hit me with a Shadow Ball. Really sad, because I was actually very confident throughout most of the battle. For the first 3 rounds, I was just clearly knocking it out. But he goes for Fissure, which, for those who don't know, is a literal one-hit KO move. He just eviscerated my team. Like, what the fuck, man? I wanted a rematch, but not after winding this up. Like I said, I just wanted to quickly show you this, that this is the move tutor thing that Grizz was talking about. You can pretty much teach all of your Pokemon very random moves that it would not normally learn otherwise, and I know this because I've been trying to teach all of my Pokemon the TM for Dig for the longest time, and none of them would be able to. So that's how I know that. Yeah, I'm gonna let you know right now, this battle doesn't get better. In fact, arguably a lot worse. Because after reviewing the footage, I realized that what worked in the previous attempt does not work for some reason in this attempt. The first round goes without a hitch, that's not the issue. But what's the issue is when he brings out the Golem, I decided this time I would use Confuse Ray in order to hopefully bring it down a peg. I bring out Sapphics, it uses Rollout, and I try to use Water Gun. It is not a one-hit KO this time. So already I am at a severe disadvantage here. I taught Newt Giga Drain, which was a very smart decision in this situation, but it brings out its Dunsparce once again, not as its final Pokemon, but it knocks me out instantly. I go for Confuse Ray in hope of bringing it down a peg, and it does bring it down a little bit. I thought that Dunsparce might have been a bug type, which is why I did the Flamethrower. Did not work out in my favor. I used Oliver with his Reversal and Bite. It goes for a heal with Berry Juice, and it glares me down with Paralyze, and I'm just at a point to where I really do not think I'm gonna win this battle. I really do not have the confidence, no matter how much energy and effort I put into this. So I bring out Flaffy in hope of maybe doing something, but nope. I have been unsuccessful twice in a row. I figured that I would set my eyes on something a little bit more productive with my time, so I decided to grind Newt into a level where Newt can evolve into a Xatu. I'm really happy because Xatu is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and it was just like at the very beginning of the playthrough when I was very stupidly trying to catch a Natu that was like very close to level 25. So I feel like I earned the right to have Natu in my team. Afterwards, I decided to make Snorlax a part of my team officially. There is just no way that Snorlax is not going to be a part of my team throughout my Pokemon journey. So I play the flute music that is on the Pokegear radio. And Oliver says he's very interested in this Snorlax, so we're gonna go after this Snorlax, baby. So the strategy is to switch to Flaffy in order to get both a Thunder Wave and a Confuse Ray. It uses Belly Drum in order to raise its attack, but when it decided to hit itself, it knocked itself out. This was a very unique situation for me, because I have never in my life ever seen a Pokemon completely take itself out. Of course, with the exception of Perish Song, Self-Destruct, or Explosion. That is just absolutely absurd right there. Okay, round 2. It goes for Belly Drum, doing exactly the same thing as it did before. I use Thunder Wave, and this time I'm gonna go for Confuse Ray. Hopefully it doesn't hit itself too brutally here. Switching to Sydney just in case I need to re-confuse it again. That's a weird way to say it, but okay. It hits itself, but it doesn't knock itself out this time. I think this time the leftovers it was holding actually came to my benefit in this case. I decided this time I would double my chances by paying attention to the genders that they have and use the Love Ball, to which I was successful. I caught the 6th member of my team. I nicknamed Snorlax Cuddle Bear, and now we're about to go fight Brock. Just gonna skip straight to the gym leader battle. So Brock starts off with a Graveler, which I use Giga Drain to completely just knock it out in one hit. Already off to a great start. He sends out Onix, I bring out Sapphics to diversify my use of my team, and Sapphics uses Water Gun, another one-hit knockout. Next he brings out Rhyhorn, I bring out my freshly caught Cuddle Bear, and the strategy is just gonna be progressing my attack with Rollout until I knock it out. It gets more and more powerful as time progresses, and I mean, I wasn't even worried to begin with. Next up is Misty, who uses Water-type Pokemon, and I really don't have a lot to worry about. I pretty much have a type coverage on multiple Pokemon towards Water-type Pokemon. After confusing Psyduck, it basically hits itself. I paralyze it. He takes a couple of hits, but I mean, I got this in the bag. I'm not even Quagsire! I learned my lesson from before, y'all. Y'all don't have to tell me in the comments section that I'm a shitty trainer. gained, lots and lots of experience. Lapras proves to be really powerful using ice-type attacks on top of being a water-type Pokemon. So I try to paralyze it and use some Thunder Shocks, only to just... Honestly, I need to upgrade my Thunder Shock to something more powerful like a Thunderbolt or a Thunder, I don't know. Newt brings it down a peg with Giga Drain, but it's still not quite enough to knock it out because I end up fainting myself. So next up is Cuddle Bear, and Cuddle Bear just knocks it out very effortlessly at this point. Starmie is brought out next, and I decided it would be ideal to bring out Sydney for the type advantage of Ghost against Psychic. Sydney gets Starmie confused and it hits itself, uses Shadow Ball, and then all of a sudden, I win. Fuck yeah. This makes 6 badges in total. Good day everyone, I do have to interject and say that this video project in particular is a lot more ambitious and much bigger than I had imagined, and I do want to finish it. However, due to the length of this video so far, and how I essentially planned the rest of the gameplay to be, I'm gonna have to cut this into parts. I feel that this is going to be a part 1. There's going to be a part 2. I'm not sure if there's going to be a part 3, but definitely no more than 3 parts. So this is going to be part 1, and then part 2 is coming up next, and we'll see if it gets to part 3 or not. I'd like to be able to cover a lot of ground in this game, and I want to be able to do it in a non-rushed fashion. So anyway, have a good rest of your day, folks. Enjoy everything. Subscribe and all that. Patreon, Ko-Fi. You know how it goes. See ya.